Hello and welcome to Investing Confidential. I want to just, the title of this is CNN for Zakaria. I don't know if you guys know who Fareed Zakaria is. He's a Sunday show on CNN every week. The guy is brilliant. Okay, I met him years ago. Uh, Incredible mind, incredible speaker, thought-provoking guy. Um, but like everyone on CNN and everyone in the media, since 2016, this guy has gone off the rails, completely off the rails. Instead of focusing on what he's smart at, which is analyzing geopolitics, economies, etc., all the guy focuses on is Trump, 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 Trump. And this is not going to be political, okay? But he had a special last Sunday that probably none of you watch because nobody's watching CNN. That's not political. That's reality. No one watches that stupid network. Um, but he had a special and he called it uh, America's Mess with Mexico. Okay. And it's amazing because what has happened in Mexico, before I go into his stupid special, let me tell you what's happened. I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. So Mexico had an election, June 1st, June 2nd. The party that was in power, run by a guy named AMLO, who's a socialist, his party won. His new political party he formed won. And they elected a woman, the first woman ever to be elected to run Mexico, and who's also Jewish, who has an interesting background, very smart, has 3 degrees, studied in the U.S., etc. Has worked for this, for the left and socialist party for many years. Has a couple of kids, married twice, just regular kind of human existence, except that obviously she's part of the Socialist Party in Mexico, and she's very smart. Okay, what makes her different than the president who's leaving in a few months is that he had a lot of baggage. He lost many elections. He had a lot of vendettas. And so since he's been in power, what he's really done is nothing. Okay, he's done absolutely nothing except stop a world-class airport from being built. But he's done nothing, and he's allowed the crime and the cartels to go crazy in Mexico. But he has nothing destructive. Okay, nothing destructive until recently. And so, the people assumed the worst case when he got in. The worst case didn't happen. Boom. Now you have his protege running Mexico. So the markets, because not only did Ms. Scheinbaum win, okay, her entire party became very powerful. Okay, across the board. A lot of governor elections, so Mexico is a democracy, doesn't have the same type of political system as we do, but, the ruling party basically won a lot of the what we would call congressional seats all over Mexico. Everyone's scared because they have the full power. So, what we've seen recently is we've seen the currency, as you can see here, get whacked. Okay, Mexico had up until this election, one of the strongest currencies, probably the strongest currency in emerging markets. The currency's been stronger than even the U.S. dollar versus gold, by the way. And there's been a lot of FDI coming into Mexico, and I'm going to address that towards the end. But since the election, we've seen the Mexico peso weaken. We've seen the yields on government debt start to spike. Okay, pretty significantly, even though inflation in Mexico is subdued, relatively speaking, right? So because of this election, currency's whacked out. You've got bond yields in Mexico going crazy. You've got the stock market coming off highs. It was at all-time highs. Mexico was one of the strongest stock markets in the world, and all of this because of the election. So now, look, investors have spoken. They're concerned about all this, and that's fine. And then you've got this character, Fareed Zakaria and CNN. And so on Sunday, remember, this election only happened a few weeks ago. So Sunday, he comes out with this America's mess with Mexico. And for 1 hour, he discussed, the president, the former president of Mexico, the new president of Mexico. But all of a sudden, about the middle of this series, he basically makes an analogy of AMLO, which is the outgoing president, and the new president, analogy to Trump, saying that they're wannabe dictators, they're populist dictators, etc. Now, look, at the end of the day, CNN can say what they want to say, but this, folks, is classic disinformation. There is nothing similar between Trump and AMLO, the outgoing president of Mexico, and the new incoming president of Mexico, who are in the same party. Absolutely nothing. You have socialists on one hand and extreme capitalists on the other. You have, in America, you have Trump. They call him a populist, okay? Populist means for the common people, okay? You may want to consider, I don't know. And then you've got AMLO, which really isn't a populist. He's more of a socialist, right? He's a devout socialist. He praises Venezuela. He adores the criminal president of Brazil, the convicted criminal of Brazil, who's also a devout socialist. And so a lot of his policies, of the few policies he put on, very socialist in nature, but they couldn't be anything different between the two. So this character, Fareed Zakaria, goes on, instead of talking about the opportunities and what's happening, he starts talking about politics, saying that, Trump is going to be like this guy is like Trump. There's a lot of analogies. If Trump gets in office and combines with these evil people in Mexico, the U.S. is, I don't know what the catalyst is. I don't know what his reasoning for doing this, but it's a disgrace. One thing has nothing to do with the other. Okay. And look, when it comes to Mexico, I'll give you both sides. Okay. The last 6 years, okay, with AMLO in power, in terms of policy, like I said, he did nothing, meaning he did nothing good. He did nothing bad, except that during his term, they redid the free trade agreement between the U.S. and Mexico, and it's very positive for both countries, especially for Mexico. And we're seeing that now with this concept of nearshoring. Okay, and I think I've mentioned nearshoring before, but just to go over what nearshoring is, as you can see here, nearshoring basically is a way for is part of this way for bringing supply chains back, right? So we saw the pandemic, all of our drugs were being manufactured in China, all the iPhones in China, everything was going to China and other parts of the world. And we were having, this big, they blamed this for the big spike in inflation. And so now we need to bring our manufacturing back, okay? We need to bring it back. We need to back to the US. Well, look, the reality is there is some going to be manufactured back to the US, but look, from a standpoint of wage, et cetera, US is still very expensive. And for foreign companies, right, they have a really interesting outlet. They don't have to go back into the US. They could just go to Mexico because goods imported from Mexico into the US have little to no tariffs. All right. It's very simple. Everything's negotiated. So what we're seeing today is Taiwan. We're seeing, obviously China, Germany, countries all over the world are now either setting up or looking to reestablish facilities, either manufacturing, straight manufacturing, or assembling facilities in Mexico. Now, the problem that we haven't seen even a bigger boom is that going back to this AMLO, the guy did nothing. And so you can't build, it's very, very difficult to build new plants. He hates developers, by the way. He hates the real estate industry. Again, separate from Trump, who loves the real estate, this guy in Mexico hates it. So there is no really, to make an analogy to is absurd. But anyway, I'm digressing. So he has no. So there really hasn't been any new where there was some excess capacity, and now Mexico, northern Mexico, mid to northern Mexico, has a huge problem. Is that they have all this demand, and they don't have the ability to build. Okay, that's going to change dramatically. Okay, that's for sure going to change because the new president doesn't have the hatred of the real estate industry that the outgoing president has. Okay. That's very simple. So you've seen big announcements. Okay, the biggest one is the largest EV company in the world, which is China, which is BYD, owned by Warren Buffett. They're gonna build, the big SUVs and other in Mexico. Okay, and I could tell you they're not the only one. So land prices in Mexico are finally going up across the board because not only does Mexico have a problem with building new facilities in demand, they have problems because they don't have workers. Believe it or not, they don't have enough workers because this guy, the outgoing president, hated the real estate. He didn't allow builders to build homes. So there's a massive deficit of 500,000 homes, demand for homes, single family homes, apartments, whatever it is. So there's going to be a building boom in Mexico, a building boom, a manufacturing boom, which is all, believe it or not, it's all going to benefit the U.S. Okay, it's all going to benefit, believe it or not, because if we demanded all that stuff be manufactured in the U.S., prices would skyrocket because it's just too expensive. We need a lot of stuff built in places where wages are lower, not as low, not like China low, but lower, and there's places but everyone benefits. Everyone benefits. So I know I'm ranting. This Fareed Zakaria, a smart guy. His premise was ridiculous. It's political. Okay, CNN is political. They took a business aspect and made it political, which is dumb, which makes them look dumb. He's a smart guy, but he looked dumb. And the bottom line is that what is about to happen, okay, this big movement of supply chains is going to be very, very bullish for Mexico. As an investor, if you watch the stock market go down, you watch the currency get hit, you got to be licking your chops. Do you go in today? No, but it's close. You may want to scale in, but there's going to be a time where the Mexican market is going to be extremely attractive. Now, you have this uncertainty period from today until Claudia Sheinbaum takes control of the country, let's say in September, October, right? I think it's October when she comes in. That's probably going to be your buying point around that time, because there's no way she's going to be as bad as what the markets have predicted. Because look, this clown AMLO has run the country for 6-7 years. He's done nothing. There's a lot of crime, et cetera, but things have gone well. And despite the concerns about Trump, and it really doesn't, it's nothing with Trump. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter who it is who comes in. Mexico is going to benefit. It's going to be a boom town. And my point of doing this video is that this character and CNN decide to take what is an interesting theme and turn it into a political stunt. Hey, well, he's Donald Trump, he's AMLO, and they're together. They're both populist. It's gonna be a real problem. And I'm like, these guys stupid. These guys are out of their minds. And then I thought about, wait a minute. This is supposed to be about economics. It's supposed to be about business. Why are they doing this? And then you figure, well, look, Fareed Zakaria. Okay, when I met Fareed Zakaria, his side gigs besides CNN was paid speaking gigs by Goldman Sachs, Bank of America. So this guy, this gentleman, makes more money than does CNN by doing speaking engagements with Wall Street. Now, why would Wall Street sort of fund this in a sense? You think about it, does it make any sense? Yeah, well, it does make sense because Wall Street desperately wants to keep the status quo. Wall Street wants, as we told, Wall Street wants the stock market to stay up. They need to do IPOs, need to do all this stuff. And the bottom line is they're making a political statement as well. So whether it's Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, who are the ones that pay this guy's bills, because that's what they do, somebody's pulling his strings. And it doesn't, this thing was a disaster. Don't even watch it. Don't look for it. In fact, CNN is such a terrible organization, you can't even find it on their website. Thank goodness. They'll give you a little excerpt. It's a horrific company when it comes to media. But bottom line is, don't watch it. If you hear anything negative on Mexico, just keep your powder dry. October's coming. New president's coming in. I actually think she's going to do a good job. Okay. She has to play the game right now. But optically, she's an independent person. She's incredibly smart. All right. She's got other things going for her I'm not going to get into. But the bottom line is they're painting the worst case scenario for a lot of different reasons. In the case of CNN, it's politics, which makes no sense. But a big buying opportunity is coming in Mexico. Huge. And I will obviously go into some specifics later on, but I just wanted to point this out because it just happened this Sunday and it was a disgrace. So Mexico, interesting. CNN, Fareed Zakaria, complete morons, disgraceful special that they put on. So for all you investors out there, keep your powder dry and be careful out there.